I'd been behind the wheel for what felt like forever, easily over 3 hours, cruising down I-95 with Washington straight ahead. I kept telling myself I was just going to surprise my wife, Olivia, with a nice dinner while she was away at a 4-day insurance conference at the Hilton. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the full truth. The real reason I was on that highway? I had a gut feeling something was going on, and not the good kind. I thought she might be seeing someone else. That suspicion hadn't just popped up overnight either. For months, it had been eating at me. I was caught in this awful storm of guilt, doubt, and straight-up anger. My hands were clenching the steering wheel so hard I nearly veered off the road a few times. Every time one of her work trips came up lately, something just felt off. She'd get home later than usual, act distant, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. She'd smile at her phone like it was telling her the funniest joke in the world, something I wasn't in on. It wasn't like her. Olivia used to light up a room just by walking in. Her energy, her laugh, it was all contagious. But lately, that spark in her eyes had faded. Sure, she still looked incredible. Those curves that used to make me stop in my tracks back when we were just high school kids? Still there. And her long brown hair still shimmered in the sun like a strand of polished copper. But even with all that, something about her felt locked away. Like there were thoughts behind her eyes she didn't want to share. Olivia and I had been married for 15 years. We had 2 kids, Mia, who's 13, and Eli, who's 11. We tied the knot right after high school, wild and in love, thinking nothing could ever touch us. But life has a funny way of testing people. And sometimes, if one person starts thinking they deserve more than what they've got at home, love doesn't fade, it rots. I'd had enough of wondering. I had to know the truth for myself. So I planned to head straight up to her hotel room, room 315, and find out whether there was still something worth saving, or if I was just clinging to a ship that had already sunk. Part of me, maybe the darker part, thought that if I caught her in the act, at least I'd finally know where I stood. No more tossing and turning at night, picturing worst-case scenarios in my head. I pulled into the Hilton a little after 6 in the evening. The place was fancy, those big glass doors spinning nonstop, a shiny lobby that screamed money, and marble floors so clean they practically glowed. One of those places where they charge you an arm and a leg to park, but don't charge nearly enough for the truth. Honestly, I half expected a security guard to stop me. But the strange thing about places like that? If you walk in like you belong, nobody questions a thing. I made my way to the front desk, where a young guy in a crisp uniform asked how he could help. I kept calm, introduced myself, James Parker, and handed him my ID. Told him I was there to see my wife, Olivia Parker. Said she was attending the insurance conference and staying in room 315. I even told him she'd left a key for me, saying it all with the kind of confidence that sounds rehearsed. He gave me a quick glance, typed something into the computer, and smiled like everything was perfectly normal. "Here you go, Mr. Parker," he said, sliding a keycard across the counter. "Enjoy your stay." As I headed toward the elevator, I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. The lights above felt too bright, and my hands were slick with sweat. I kept telling myself I was ready for whatever I'd find behind that door. But let's be honest, I wasn't. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor and walked down a hallway lined with a worn red carpet that had definitely seen better days. I stopped in front of room 315, slid the card into the lock, and held my breath. The light turned green. The door clicked open. Olivia was sitting at a small desk near the corner, flipping through a stack of papers. She turned toward the door, her eyes going wide. "James? You scared me." I smiled like nothing was wrong. "Thought I'd surprise you," I said, keeping my voice light. "Brought my suit. Figured we could grab dinner somewhere nice." For a moment, something flickered in her expression. Was it guilt? I couldn't be sure. Then, just like that, she broke into a wide, cheerful smile. "That's so sweet. I wasn't expecting you." She stood up, smoothed her blouse like she was brushing off invisible lint, and walked toward me with open arms. I half expected her to stop me from coming in, but she didn't. She leaned in and kissed me soft, familiar. My stomach twisted. That same mouth I'd imagined screaming at if I ever caught her betraying me, now pressing gently against mine like nothing was wrong. And yet, she seemed genuinely happy to see me. "Stay the night," she said, all bubbly and bright. "They gave me a pretty nice room. You can help me unwind after sitting through those long seminars." "Sure," I said, going along with it. "Could use a break myself." She kissed me again, her fingers brushing against my shoulders like they always used to. Then she pulled back. "Let me take a quick shower," she said, as casual as can be. Then we'll figure out what to do for dinner. Her voice was so light, so easygoing, I started to wonder if I'd imagined everything. Maybe I was just being overly suspicious. Or maybe she was just a better liar than I gave her credit for. She walked into the bathroom, humming like she didn't have a care in the world. A second later, I heard the water start running. I kicked off my shoes and glanced around. The place was clean. No obvious signs of a second guest, not at first glance, anyway. I let out a long breath. Maybe I'd gotten it all wrong. I'd driven 3 hours, my heart in knots the whole way, and so far, everything looked normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling. My eyes landed on her big toiletry bag sitting on the dresser. I wandered over, telling myself I was just looking for some aspirin or something. But come on, we both know that wasn't the reason. I unzipped the bag and started poking through it. Makeup, hairpins, a small comb, just the usual stuff. And then I saw something that stopped me cold. A pack of 7 rubber. My blood ran cold. After Eli was born, Olivia went on birth control pills that really messed with her system, so I got a vasectomy. We never needed protection again, not for years. So what were these doing in her bag? I just stared at them, my hands trembling. There was only one explanation, and it shattered me. There was no denying it now, Olivia was involved with someone else. She'd crossed a line, and for me, that was the final blow to whatever trust one had left in her. Now, what's a man supposed to do when he finds out his wife's been unfaithful? Some guys might blow up right then and there. Others might storm off, slam the door behind them. Me? I went cold. I kept digging through her stuff and found a safety pin in the bag. My hands moved like they weren't mine. I poked the tiniest holes into each of those little packets, right through the middle, and then slid them back in like nothing happened. Was it logical? Not even a little. But in that moment, it felt like quiet payback. If she used those with the guy she was sneaking around with, well, let's just say karma might show up real soon. I tucked the pin into my pocket and spotted my phone on the nightstand. I dialed Ethan, my oldest friend, the kind of guy who'd drop everything if I needed him. I kept my voice low. Hey, man, I need a solid. Told him to call me in about an hour with some emergency. Make it sound real, like a busted pipe at the school or something that I just had to take care of. No hesitation on his part. Ethan was all in. By the time Olivia stepped out of the bathroom, dripping wet and wrapped in a towel, everything was in place. She tossed me that flirty look she always used when she wanted something. Hey there, you look tense. I forced out a chuckle. Long drive, I said, keeping it casual. She sat down beside me and ran her hand along my leg. Let me help you unwind. Then she leaned in and kissed me, her skin still warm from the shower, steam rising off her shoulders. Any sane man might have pulled away right then, told her to stop. But me? I let it happen. That mix of betrayal and anger was boiling under my skin, and I guess part of me wanted to feel something. Anything. So yeah, we were intimate. But my thoughts were screaming the whole time. Every sound she made, every touch, it all felt wrong, like a bad play she was putting on. I watched her closely, waiting for her to slip up or say something out of place. But she didn't. She acted like it was real, like we were still in love. Like nothing was broken. Afterward, we got dressed and headed down to the hotel restaurant. She was glowing, all cheerful, like she hadn't just shattered our marriage. She ordered a small filet and a glass of wine. I went for the biggest steak they had and poured myself a whiskey, hoping to drown the storm in my chest. I tried to sound relaxed. So, how's the conference going? She shrugged like it didn't matter much. It's fine. Insurance stuff. Boring, but important. Then she hit me with a look and said, You never ask me about work. The nerve. She was acting like I was the one who didn't care. Like I was the one who'd checked out. I wanted to laugh right then. Here I was, more invested than ever. We chatted about the kids, the mortgage, regular stuff. But inside, I was tight as a drum. Couldn't relax. I was just waiting. Right on cue, Ethan called. I got up from the table and answered. Yeah? A pipe burst at the school. I played the role perfectly. Okay. I'll head back right away. Give it a minute or two, just to make it believable, then walked back to the table. Olivia looked up, trying to look disappointed but not quite pulling it off. Something wrong. I gave her the story. Plumbing issue. School emergency. Only guy who could fix it. Had to get back. She rolled her eyes. Really? Tonight, James? We just got here. I know, I told her, trying to sound like I actually regretted it. But if I don't take care of it, the whole place might have to shut down tomorrow. She sighed, pushed her plate away. Fine. Go be the hero. That reaction told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't mad. If anything, She looked kind of pleased. Probably already imagining calling that other guy. Maybe even using those altered items. We headed back to her room, and as we stepped off the elevator, another guest was getting on, a tall guy with too much confidence in his smile. He lit up when he saw Olivia. "Olivia," he said warmly, then turned to me. "You must be James. I'm Nathan Scott. I work with your wife." I gave him a good look. Late 30s. Impeccable hair. Strong jawline. Watch that probably cost more than my truck. Everything about him screamed smug. The look in Olivia's eyes said it all. This wasn't just a coworker. This guy knew her secrets. "Nathan," I repeated, shaking his hand. "Nice to meet you." He smiled and walked off, casual as ever. I wanted to follow him, slam him into the wall, let him know exactly what I thought. But I held it in. Not yet. I walked Olivia back to her room, said my goodbyes, promised to call in the morning. Her face showed something strange. A mix of relief, and maybe a little fear. I left the hotel and got in my truck, the silence louder than ever as I drove home. The city lights disappeared behind me, and I couldn't stop wondering if I had it in me to go through with whatever came next. The woman I married, the girl I'd loved since high school, wasn't who I thought she was anymore. She was lying, sneaking, and all I had to show for it was a pack of tampered rubber that told the truth better than she ever did. If I had stood up and shouted that Olivia was cheating, nobody would have believed me. Not without proof. I needed something solid, something that showed she wasn't just careless, but calculating. 3 days later, Olivia came back home like nothing had happened. She walked in all cheerful, practically glowing, talking about how exhausting the conference was. She didn't mention Nathan. No apology. No weird tension. Just a quick kiss on the cheek before she busied herself in the kitchen like we were still that perfect little family. I kept it together on the outside, but inside, I was burning. That Sunday, Olivia's company, Summit Insurance, threw their usual summer family picnic. They did it every year at a big park, rides for the kids, balloons, cotton candy, the works. Mia and Eli were hyped. Me? Not so much. The idea of standing around watching Olivia cozy up to coworkers, especially him, made my stomach turn. But for the kids' sake, I played my part. Olivia dressed to impress that morning. Tight V-neck top, skinny jeans that hugged every curve. She posed in front of the mirror like she was getting ready for a magazine cover, flipping her hair and applying lip gloss like she was gearing up for a photo shoot. "You look nice," I said flatly. "Thanks," she replied, giving me a look. Could have done without the robot tone. I didn't bite. Let it roll off. At the park, we checked in, picked up some free swag bags, and the moment we crossed the welcome booth, Olivia got sucked into a loud circle of coworkers. I stood off to the side with the kids, trying to keep a smile on. And then I saw him, Nathan, walking around like he owned the place, shaking hands and laughing too loud. He had that polished, charming vibe that made you want to punch a wall. That's when a woman I'd never seen before walked up to me. Tall, auburn hair, sharp blue eyes. She wore a fitted white blouse and slacks that gave off confidence without even trying. "Hey," she said softly. "You're Olivia's husband, right?" "James Parker." "I am," I said, a bit wary. "And you are?" "Rachel Scott, Nathan's wife." That stopped me cold. I raised an eyebrow. "Nathan's wife?" She had a calm kind of grace, but I could tell there was something boiling under the surface. We chatted lightly at first. Weather, the crowd, the usual small talk. Then her voice dipped. "I know about Olivia and Nathan," she said. "I've known for a while." The world kind of froze for a second. "You knew?" I asked, heart thudding. She nodded, glancing behind me quickly. "I've tried everything to make him stop. He denies it. I even hired a private investigator." That hit me like a shot of adrenaline. "So, you have proof?" She gave a tight smile. "Oh yeah. Photos, videos, phone records, the whole deal. My lawyer thinks we could build strong divorce cases, especially if we back each other up." I nodded slowly. Part of me felt sick, but another part, maybe the bigger part, felt relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Olivia really was cheating. Rachel asked if I'd be willing to team up, share evidence, testimonies, whatever we could gather to help each other out legally. I agreed on the spot. She suggested we meet up the next day at her house. Nathan would be out golfing, she said. She gave me her address, 45 Maple Street, Fairfax. We exchanged numbers and then slipped back into the crowd like nothing had happened. Olivia was laughing at something Nathan said, tossing her head back like he was the funniest guy alive. Meanwhile, Nathan barely acknowledged Rachel, who stood nearby with a perfectly calm expression, like she'd trained herself not to care. The air was thick with tension. The next morning, I told Olivia I had errands. She hardly looked up from her phone. Said she'd be out shopping with a friend. Perfect. I dropped the kids off at my parents' place, then headed across town to Maple Street. It was one of those peaceful neighborhoods, flower beds, clean driveways, families riding bikes. Rachel's place was at the end of the street, neat and bright with roses climbing along the porch rail. She opened the door in jeans and a soft sweater, hair tied back, looking tired but composed. "Morning, James," she said, motioning for me to come in. Her house was warm and clean, decorated with soft lighting and autumn colors. She led me to a small den where a computer monitor sat on a table. On the screen was a feed from a cheap motel room. One bed, plain walls, empty for now. "My PI set up a camera here," she said quietly. "Nathan's predictable. He always books this room when he goes golfing." Her voice cracked slightly at the end. She offered me a soda. I took it, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. "So, they're meeting today?" She nodded. "Most likely. He thinks I've stopped checking." We sat and waited, passed the time with nervous conversation. Then she pulled out a thick folder, one of those accordion-style ones, filled with photos. There they were. Olivia and Nathan walking into motels, leaving restaurants, once even kissing next to a parked car. There were audio recordings, text logs, timestamps, names, everything I'd been afraid to admit out loud, now staring me in the face. My stomach turned looking at those pictures, but at the same time, I felt like I could finally breathe. I wasn't crazy. This wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was real. And now, I had backup. Now I had it. Cold, hard proof. And even though I'd been preparing for it, the reality still hit me like a hammer to the skull. Then the screen flickered. The motel door opened, and in walked Nathan, still dressed in his golf polo like he'd just come from the course. Olivia was right behind him, her hair pinned up and her blouse half undone. They didn't waste a second. Started kissing like a couple of reckless teenagers, hands all over each other. Within seconds, their clothes hit the floor. The camera didn't miss a thing. It was all crystal clear, way more than I ever wanted to see. My fists clenched on instinct. This was the woman I'd loved for half my life. And there she was, with some guy I barely knew, acting like I didn't exist. I only lasted about 3 minutes before I had to look away. "That's enough," I said. Rachel's face had gone pale. "Same here." She turned off the monitor. "I'll have the PI burn a DVD," she said quietly. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thanks." We spent the next hour going over strategy. Rachel would share what she had. I'd do the same. We both wanted out, and we wanted Olivia and Nathan left with nothing but regret. If either of them tried to fight dirty, we had the ammo to blow their stories apart. Eventually, the conversation wound down. Rachel offered to show me her koi ponds in the backyard. Said it was her peaceful little escape. I needed that. Just something normal. The backyard was beautiful. Winding stone paths, little waterfalls trickling over rocks, and 3 separate ponds. The koi swam in slow, graceful circles, bright orange, white, speckled ones. It was surreal, talking calmly about fish while the wreckage of my marriage sat heavy on my shoulders. But weirdly enough, it helped. She pointed out the pumps and filters, and I told her about my background in plumbing. For the first time that day, we actually smiled. When it was time to go, she walked me to the door. "I'm sorry you're going through this," she said gently. "But at least we're not in it alone, right?" I gave a nod. "We'll get through it." Over the next few weeks, I became something of an expert on Olivia's routine. Every time she took a shower or got ready to go out, I checked her toiletry bag. Sure enough, there were fresh protective films inside almost every time. I started poking holes in them with a safety pin. It was petty. I knew that. But a small part of me found satisfaction in imagining the look on her face if she ever figured it out. Strangest part? She acted like everything was normal. If anything, she got more arrogant, more entitled. She started blaming me, said I didn't appreciate her, called me narrow-minded. Like I was the problem. I began to wonder if she actually enjoyed living a double life. Perfect wife and mom on one side, Nathan's mistress on the other. Then came the night I decided I'd had enough. We were in the living room after the kids went to bed. She was watching some trashy reality show, barely paying attention to me. "Olivia," I said, "we need to talk. About your job." She didn't even mute the TV. "We've already talked about this." "What now?" "I want you to quit Summit Insurance," I said. I can't stand that place. And I don't trust Nathan Scott. She looked at me like I was crazy. Let out a short laugh. You're obsessed, she said. Nathan's just a coworker. I'm not quitting because you're insecure. It's not insecurity, I shot back. It's the way you act around him. I see it. That's when she stood up and turned off the TV with way too much flair. James, grow up, she snapped. I'm tired of being blamed for your jealousy. I'm not having this conversation again. And with that, she brushed past me and went upstairs, leaving me alone with my anger. Meanwhile, things with Rachel were getting more coordinated. We shared updates often. My kids had even started calling her the fish lady. They loved going over to her place, staring into those koi ponds and feeling the calm that didn't exist at home anymore. Olivia never noticed, never asked questions. On the night she was with Nathan, I'd take the kids to Rachel's. We'd watch movies, play board games, or just enjoy a little peace. Rachel filed for divorce first. Nathan pushed back hard. Tried to use threats, claiming she'd violated his privacy with the surveillance footage. But her lawyer shredded him in court. Between the photos, recordings, and witness accounts, Nathan didn't stand a chance. Olivia? She stayed clueless. Or maybe she thought she was untouchable. Either way, she never once questioned where I was spending my evenings or why I seemed so calm. Maybe guilt kept her quiet. Or maybe she just stopped caring. Then one night, she casually dropped a bombshell. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine, swirling it like she was in some commercial. I've been stressed, she said. I'm taking some time off. Gonna visit Lena for a few days. Maybe a week. She sipped her wine and gave me a smug little smile. Thought you'd appreciate the break. You've been moody lately. I clenched my jaw. She said it like she was doing me a favor. When are you leaving? I asked. Nathanero morning. Lena has room, and I need to clear my head. She gave me a look, daring me to challenge her. I didn't. Have fun, I said, forcing a smile. But inside, my gut was spinning. Something felt off. Later, I checked her purse, and there they were. Receipts from the family planning center. One quick search, and my worst fear started creeping in. She might be pregnant. And if she was heading to Lena's to clear her head, maybe she was also planning to end it. Those protective films I'd been sabotaging, they might have worked. Was she really pregnant? With his baby? I needed to be sure. The next morning, I drove out to the clinic. Figured that's where she'd scheduled it, based on the receipts I found. Most places wouldn't tell me anything. Privacy laws and all that. But at the family planning center, someone said I could sign a consent form if I could prove I was the spouse. So I played it casual. Walked in like I was just there to help. Hey, I said with a smile, just here to sign that form, gotta make sure we're all good, right? The receptionist looked through some files, then slid one across the desk. I signed. And there it was, Thursday at 11:30 a.m. The appointment. My head started pounding. So it was true. She was pregnant. Most likely with Nathan's child. All because of the holes I poked in those protective films. The mix of emotions hit me all at once. Shock, anger, regret, and yeah, something darker. A sense of grim satisfaction. She hadn't just betrayed me. She got pregnant with another man's baby and was about to erase the evidence like it never happened. No more quiet exit. No gentle separation. She wanted to play dirty? I could play too. I drove 2 hours straight to her sister Lena's house. Olivia had only gotten there the night before. Lena was married to Lucas, a big, broad guy, former construction foreman who looked like he could toss me across the yard if he wanted. As soon as I stepped inside, I felt the tension tighten around the room like a rope. Olivia crossed her arms. What are you doing here? I forced a smile. Just thought I'd visit. Kids are with my parents. Figured I'd take a few days off, since you're on vacation and all. Lena shot Lucas a nervous glance. Lucas, to his credit, tried to act cool. Sure, he mumbled. More the merrier. Olivia's jaw was locked tight. I didn't invite you. I shrugged. I'm here anyway. The silence hung heavy after that. Lucas cleared his throat. Hey, James, how about we go fishing tomorrow? My buddy's got a boat. Few beers, some sun. Let the ladies relax. I pretended to think it over. Yeah, sounds fun. But when morning came, I refused to go. Just stood next to their car with my arms crossed. Lucas turned red trying to talk me into it, but I wasn't budging. Eventually, he and his buddy left without me, grumbling the whole way. Inside, Lena was making frantic phone calls. Olivia tried brushing me off. Go do something else, James, she snapped. We've got errands. I just smiled and sipped my coffee in the kitchen, ignoring them. When Olivia left her phone on the table, I shut it off. Every time Lucas tried to call, it just went a voicemail. Lena hissed angry whispers into her phone, probably trying to reschedule or at least warn the clinic they were going to be late. I blocked every chance they had to sneak away. By the time Lucas returned, it was already late afternoon. He looked like he'd been yelling into a dead phone all day. Lena was fuming, blaming him for not dragging me out to the lake. Olivia just sat there tense, quiet, seething. That night after dinner, I waited until we were alone in the kitchen. The overhead light threw hard shadows across her face. "Olivia," I said, calm but firm. "You're done working at Summit Insurance. Either quit, or I'm filing for divorce." Her eyes lit up with fury. "Shut up. I'm sick of hearing about this. I'm not quitting, and you can't make me. You're just trying to control me." I didn't respond right away. Just pulled out the manila folder I'd brought. Slid the divorce papers across the table. "Sign them, or don't," I said. "But I'm not sticking around to be played anymore." She looked down, her face twisting in disbelief. "You can't divorce me just because of a job. That's not a reason." "No," I said quietly, pulling out a stack of photos. "But adultery is." I spread them out on the table, her in Nathan's arms, slipping out of motels, half-dressed, careless. Her face drained of color. "You scoundrel," she hissed. "You've been spying on me." She lunged for the pictures, but I caught her wrist. "How else was I supposed to find out?" I said. "You lied to me. For months. You made a fool out of me." Her lips trembled. "You had no right. This is sick. You set me up, like some kind of stalker. You set yourself up the minute you started seeing Nathan." Just then, footsteps thundered into the room. Lena and Lucas appeared, Lena gasping when she saw the photos scattered on the table. Olivia stood there shaking, eyes darting between the evidence and me. Then my phone buzzed. It was my dad. He just pulled up, with a truckload of Olivia's stuff from our house. I ended the call and looked her in the eye. "What did you do?" she whispered, voice cracking. I leaned in just enough to be heard. "I changed the locks. Had everything packed up. If there's something you still need, send me a list." She looked stunned, like the ground had been yanked out from under her. Lena tried to speak up for her sister, but I didn't let her get far. "I've taken half the money from our joint accounts," I said, holding up an envelope. "That's yours." I slid a second document across the table. "I've also signed over the title to your car. It's in your name now." Olivia didn't say a word, just stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. "As for the kids," I continued, "you'll see them once a week. Maybe one overnight visit a month. But only after you sign a notarized statement admitting to the affair." Olivia choked on her own words. "What are you even talking about? You can't do that." Then I dropped the hammer. "I know you're pregnant, Olivia." Thursday, 11:30 a.m., Family Planning Center. That ring a bell? Her scream cut through the kitchen like glass shattering. "You had no right." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a tiny object. A safety pin. I placed it gently on the table between us. "I've been poking holes in your protective films for the past 2 months," I said, eyes locked on hers. "You burned through nearly 40 of them in just a couple of weeks." She started shaking. "So now you're pregnant, with Nathan's kid. Or, you were. But I guess you're planning to erase that little inconvenience on Thursday, right?" Olivia broke. Tears streamed down her face. "You're insane." I kept my voice low, steady. "You started this, Olivia. Not me." Lucas looked like he was watching a car crash in slow motion. Lena rushed to Olivia's side, wrapping her arms around her as both sisters sobbed like I was the villain. Like I crossed some sacred line. I didn't argue. I didn't try to explain. I just walked out. Dad was waiting outside in his truck, engine rumbling. Together, we carried box after box of Olivia's things onto Lena's front porch. Her clothes, her makeup, her decorations. The little things that made a house feel like hers. As I stacked the last box, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, calm. This was the end. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled on Olivia's side. Summit Insurance fired both her and Nathan. Word had spread fast, especially after Nathan's wife, Rachel, threatened legal action. Apparently, the workplace had been a powder keg, and this was the spark. Olivia never signed the affidavit admitting the affair, but it didn't matter. The photos and the gossip were enough. She moved in with Lena full-time. I heard through the grapevine that Nathan was footing her bills. Maybe out of guilt. Or maybe he felt responsible because of the pregnancy. Either way, I didn't care. Rachel moved faster than anyone expected. She divorced Nathan and came out way ahead. She got the house, the investments, and solid alimony. Nathan tried to fight it, but her lawyers ran circles around him. As for me, my divorce was finalized 3 months later. Olivia didn't contest a thing. I think she knew she'd already lost. She followed Nathan to Tulsa after he landed another job. Fine by me. I had the kids. To my surprise, they didn't ask for her. Not even once. I guess they'd sensed her distance. Her coldness. Even at their age, they could feel the shift. And then Nathan disappeared. Just like that. No call, no warning. Gone. Maybe he realized he'd torched his life. Maybe old debts caught up with him. There was a rumor going around that he'd been attacked outside a bar, ended up seriously hurt and in the hospital. Some called it karma. Others said it was just bad luck. Whatever it was, Olivia was left behind. Again. She slinked back to Lena's house, tail between her legs. During that time, Rachel and I started spending more time together. We weren't rushing anything. We were careful. We'd both been through enough. But we understood each other. My kids adored her. She had this warmth about her, especially when she introduced them to her koi pond. Something about feeding those fish calmed the house down. We took little road trips, stopped at aquariums, turned lazy Sundays into fish days. For months later, we started talking about marriage. We'd both been through hell, but we found peace in each other. Rachel eventually sold her old business and used some of the money to buy a 5-bedroom villa. Big pool. Backyard made for cannonballs and barbecues. One morning, she walked me out to the garage and pulled off a tarp. Underneath it sat a bright, gleaming Aston Martin DB5. Just like the one my ex had made me sell. Rachel had tracked down the same model, restored, polished, waiting for me. When I saw it, something inside me softened. A piece of myself I thought I'd lost came back. Meanwhile, Olivia was stuck in Lena's attic. Cramped, hot, forgotten. Money was tight for both of them. Lena's marriage collapsed after Lucas took a job on the Alaskan pipeline. A few months later, he mailed her divorce papers and never looked back. Now it was just the two sisters. Bitter. Broke. Bickering. I heard they fought constantly, rehashing the past, blaming each other for everything that went wrong. And me? I slept like a baby. My revenge hadn't needed fists or shouting. I'd simply pulled back the curtain and made Olivia face the reality she'd built for herself. No career. No man. No comfort. No easy exits. She could sit in that attic and replay every decision she made. As for me, I had a second chance. A calm home. A woman who truly cared. Kids who were thriving. And a koi pond in the backyard, where everything just felt still. No more secrets. No more lies. No more arrogance polluting the air we breathed. A few months passed, and then, out of the blue, Olivia reached out. She left a voicemail, her voice shaky, almost unrecognizable. She apologized. Said she missed the kids. Wanted to reconnect. Said she'd changed. I didn't know what to feel. Still, I called her back. Gave her a chance to speak. She begged to see them, said they needed their mother. I listened, silent, until she ran out of breath. Then I gave her my condition. She had to sign a written admission, an honest statement about everything she'd done, before we'd even talk about supervised visits. Her tone flipped fast. From pleading to defensive, then to angry. She tried to downplay it all, tried to twist the story like she always had. When she started yelling, I ended the call. Blocked her number for good. A few weeks later, Rachel and I tied the knot in a quiet winter ceremony. Just us and the kids. No drama. No guests who might stir the past. We celebrated that night in the backyard, wrapped in scarves and coats, feeding koi under the silver light of the moon. The pond shimmered, peaceful and still, like everything we'd finally built. Our new villa became more than just a house, it was home. A place where love replaced tension. Where dinner was shared without raised voices. Where bedtime stories ended in giggles, not slamming doors. We started planning trips to Japan, visits to koi farms, adventures for the kids, maybe even a new start halfway across the world someday. Our lives had become something I never thought possible back when the chaos ruled everything. Balanced, quiet, full of laughter, a soft, steady rhythm of healing. And in that rhythm, I found peace.